Dwayne would be throwing these lobs, and then Dwayne would go out of bounds like this, and LeBron would be dunking it, So it reminded me of Showtime in a lot of ways with those three players.
Welcome back to the OGs, a Playmaker original presented by DraftKings, and we got a iconic guest in here today. Coach, first of all, congratulations on the court. That was unbelievable. It was fun to be at. But I want to read one stat for the people back at home that I think is one of the craziest stats I've ever seen. Coach Riley has been involved in 34% of all NBA finals since his rookie season, appearing in 19 NBA finals in total. I mean, Coach, that's unbelievable. Now we know why there's your name's on the court.
That's why he's the Godfather.
Thank you, Mike, for that. Thank for that. I appreciate that statistic, but I don't think there's anybody like me who was so fortunate to be able to grab onto somebody's coattails, and have them drag you with you. And it's what it takes, from that standpoint. I learned how to coach, but in the beginning, to be able to get to finals and to Eastern Conference finals and championships, you better have talented, committed guys. And I was around talented, committed guys, especially when I was coaching. I mean, I was blessed to have the best of the best. We can go over the litany of names that are all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And I remember telling somebody in L.A. one time, I used it as a joke. It really got some of my guys upset. And somebody asked me about how does it feel, coaching, Kareem and, Magic and James Worthy, et cetera, and Michael Thompson, you go on and on. I said, are you kidding me? I said, man, if I had some talent, I'd be really successful. They don't like that the next day. But Mike, thank you. You're a part of it, and Udonis was always part of it. I just have been blessed to be around great players and great competitors and good guys, and that's why somehow I ended up in all those finals.
I mean, I will say this. You had something to do with some of these guys being great players.
Yeah.
A little bit. We gotta give you your flowers. You had something to do with some of these guys being great players. And what I will say that has always been so incredible to me is, and if you didn't notice, the first 2 years I didn't even speak to you. I was a little nervous.
I know.
Yeah. So you did notice the first 2 years.
Oh yeah.
I thought I didn't.
You
think
had to humble
noticed.
you up a little bit, man. Mr. Miami.
You scared me a little bit, Coach. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't too scared of no man, but you scared me a little bit. But your leadership qualities. The reason why I respected you, and I think the reason why you're a leader of men. You're a man's man. You know what I mean? Like there's no quit. There's no give in. No. There's no weaknesses. And if it is, I'm going to strengthen it, and I'll never show you it. Where did those leadership qualities come from? Was it your upbringing? Where did that grit? Where did that will to succeed and win and overcome? And if you're going to go hard, I'm going to go harder. If you're going to be smart, I'm going to be smarter. There's winning and there's misery. Yeah. There is no in between. Where did all that come from?
Well, there's always another level to get to. And if you do it on a daily basis, there's always another level to get to. There's always another day you can be better. There's always another minute you can be better. I mean, it's a philosophy more than anything else. But I was raised by a father who was tough ass guy. He threw me in games made my brothers, who were just as tough as he was, Lee and Lenny, both of them great athletes, throw me in games with, better players, bigger players. It was that kind of upbringing. So all of the men in my life, I had 16 men in my life, my father, my brothers, and coaches that were all hard-ass guys. That's it. That's that's how I was raised. Back from 1950. Now this is before you guys were even born. I mean, even thought of being born. From 50 to 60, I was 5 to 15 years old, and that's sort of when you form, a lot of the things that happen to you when you're, past 15 years old. So I was around a lot of coaches that were disciplined. They were value-oriented men, and they taught me to overcome UD. And so I took that with me, And so, and like you and like Mike, I think all of us, who get to another level, and then we finally meet our match. And you see, well, I'm now playing with players who are really good, and they're better than me. And so when you get to that level, when you were the best, from 8th grade to 12th grade or whatever it was, or in college, and then all of a sudden you got into the NBA, man, I was just, I was a small fish in a big pond, But it didn't stop me from fighting.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
From that standpoint.
Well, Coach, clearly you had a lot of fight in you because you didn't even play college football and you got drafted by the Cowboys.
That's crazy. That's insane.
How does something like that happen?
We gotta know.
Back in that day, the NFL used to take high school football players, which I was a quarterback, and if you didn't play football in college and you played basketball, they would follow you and they would draft you. So the Dallas Cowboys became one of the very first teams to have. There was a guy by the name of Cornell Green who was a great linebacker or a cornerback, and
Sound like a linebacker.
Yeah, and then they drafted a guy named Bucky Dent who was a tight end. He was a basketball player, didn't play football in college. So, and they were successful. So
Bucky
they had
Dent
their eye on me.
Was a basketball player and didn't play football in college.
Yes.
And was a tight end. That's what
Bucky Dent.
You see, this been going on way before,
way before
the Tony Gonzalez and all these guys we talk about it. So it was Bucky Dent.
Yeah.
Snap that.
Yeah.
He had to be the first. He had to be the first.
We had Tony Gonzalez. I don't know if you remember. He came to our summer league.
I remember. Yeah.
And I remember. I'm standing up in front of this All Pro, and he was kicking ass in that summer league game.
That.
And so he crossed over from that standpoint. But they drafted me in Dallas, and I mentioned this story to you. And I went down there with my brother to talk to. The triumphant of the Dallas Cowboys at that day was Tex Schramm, Tom Landry, and Gil Brandt. That was Gil Brandt. Was the talent selector, and Landry was one of the greatest coaches of all time. And so when I went down there to talk to him and talk contract, they offered me a $25,000 bonus. Okay, over 10 years, $2,500 a year. That's a lot of money. And they would guarantee me that money. I don't know how much they're going to pay me for salary, but my brother asked them, well, how do you see Pat? And they said, we see him as a cornerback, like Cornell Green. And he said, no, he was a quarterback in high school. And I was a good quarterback in high school. And he said, well, we don't really think we need that position filled because we have a guy named Craig Morton, Don Meredith, okay, two great all Hall of Famers, and we had this young kid named Roger Staubach, okay, is in the wing. So I went from Dallas right to San Diego and signed a contract, didn't even talk to the Dallas Chaparrals. So, but it was an honor to be drafted. And I thought about it. I really was a better football player, and I liked it better than basketball, but they thought my opportunity would be better in basketball.
I want to rewind, just a little bit because, the history, we all understand the Kentucky part of it and, the greatness that you had in Kentucky, but in high school, you had some success in high school.
Yeah.
And, obviously we know the Kareem that you coached and the Louis Alcindor that you coached. But you had a chance to compete against them in high school.
Right.
What did you see then? And
wow.
you won then,
yeah,
correct?
Wow.
You guys won.
Well, we won, but Kareem to this day will never admit it was fair. No, I mean, UD, you have no idea. So my dad was 22 years in the minor leagues as a baseball player, left-handed hitter, home run hitter, outfielder, and as a manager, he was a player manager for the last 10 years of his life, and of his baseball life. He won the championship in 1947. With the Schenectady Blue Jays in Schenectady, New York, and Tommy Lasorda at that time played for him.
Wow.
And so my dad was in the Philly organization for a long time. And, when it came to me being in high school and playing Lou Alcindor, when he walked through that door that day, we're all looking at a legend even then, and somebody who was going to become even more legendary. But it wasn't a coincidence that night in that game, that Teddy Brennan, who was an umpire for all my dad's games in baseball, was the official for the game that night. Cream fouled out in 8 minutes. He played 8 minutes.
Were you a center then? Because I know you played center in college.
Forward. We had a guy named Bill Bain was the center, but we beat them 74-68. Greatest win in the history of Schenectady, New York. We beat Lou Alcindor. And so the next year I go on to Kentucky, and moving fast forward years later, when I coached Kareem, he said, I remember that game. I said, you cheated the first year and you beat us. And then the next year I came back and we won by 50. And I said, I know I was at Kentucky though, but it was incredible to watch. No, really, he was at that time, a savant as a young player. And ironic, high school, played with him, played against him, played with him, and then coached him. What an honor.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
An honor, yeah. But he was a great player. But we were sure to make sure he wasn't going to be in that game very long.
Had to call in the reinforcements.
Yeah, we did. We got the officials going good on it,
Hey, man.
Yeah. To this day, Teddy I don't even know if he's still alive, but he would never admit that he helped us.
He ain't supposed to.
Yeah.
What help?
Nah, what help?
What we talking about here?
Yeah.
No help.
Long gone are the days of waiting in long lines at midnight to get the best deals on your favorite things on Black Friday. Now, all you got to do is check out my partners, DraftKings Sportsbook, who have touchdowns on sale all weekend long. Now, that's something to get excited about. Did you think that was it? Well, right now, all new DraftKings customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using my promo code OGs. The crown is yours. That's right. Check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app all weekend long to stay up to date on all the touchdown offers available. And don't forget to stay in on all the action and use your $150 in bonus bets on DraftKings. Same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together on the same game. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot at winning cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code OGs and bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code OGs only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Today's episode is proudly brought to you by our guys at Morgan & Morgan. It's America's largest personal injury law firm. They started out here in Florida 30 years ago and now are helping people across all 50 states. Morgan & Morgan is always for the people and have your back when it comes to fighting to get you full and fair compensation. As athletes, we have faced our fair share of injuries. That's why we know how difficult it is to get back out there after an injury. The team and the support behind you matter. And submitting an injury claim with Morgan & Morgan is free and easy. It just takes 8 clicks or less from the comfort of your own couch to get started. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/theOGs or dial #law. That's #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/theOGs or #law, #529 from your cell phone. This, my friends, is a paid advertisement.
Well, you go on, Coach. You go on from obviously playing at Kentucky, then winning the championship as a player, and then in coaching in the front office as exec. Talk a little bit about the differences of, as a player, obviously having feeling like you have more control than coaching, and then I just curiosity of how that all played out and how that works, because it's, to win at all those levels, but it's always a different aspect of how you win. Like, I think that's a unique thing that not many people get to see.
Yes.
Well, I was coachable, from that standpoint, Mike, and any coach that I ever played for, because I had a father as a coach and a lot of other men who coached me hard. I was coachable. I would listen. I was disciplined to that, and that's just who I became. My high school coach, Walt Prisblow, he was a surrogate father for me when my dad was going through some tough times, and he was my high school coach, and he's the one that sort of formed this work ethic. Went to Kentucky, Adolph Rupp, kick-ass coach, by the minute. You had to be there 30 minutes before the practice. And when you went into a shooting drill, Mike, you might appreciate this because you could shoot. UD couldn't shoot, but you could shoot. But we used to do shooting drills for 15 minutes. And when you took the jump shot, the ball could not hit the floor. So you had to follow your shot, and if it hit the floor, everybody ran, so it was either swish, catch, run back, swish, catch, miss, rebound, because he believed in the philosophy of following your shot, back then. Most guys fall away. So I don't know. I just learned from the best, and I was around the best, and I played for Bill Sharman and Jack McMahon and John McLeod, really good coaches as a player. And when I got to coaching, I just took a lot of those philosophies, with me. And I mentioned this the other night, and I mean this, is that from the very first day that I coached the Lakers, it was November 30th, 1981, and I got my chance. And I talked to my wife, Chris, the night before. I mentioned this the other night at the Tribune. And I am, nervous. I'm not got to stand up in front of Kareem, Magic, all these guys, Jamal Wilkes, Norm Nixon. I got to give my first talk tomorrow as their head coach, even though it was an interim thing. And I said to Chris, you got any thoughts on what I should say? And of course, she's a prayer warrior, she's a Bible, she doesn't, but she's a prayer warrior. She said, yeah, because there's a lot of dissension going on with that team. And she said, yeah, a house divided against itself is not going to stand pat. So you're going to have to get that house together. And you got to let them know that you're either with you or they're against you, and that they're in or out. You got to make a decision. And that's Chris. She said, clarify it real quick.
Wow.
House divided against itself is not going to stand. We got to get our act together, guys. There's a lot of dissension going on. We just got a coach fired. And you're either with me or against me. And you're either in or out.
That was one of the things that I always thought was so fascinating about you, and it's something that I learned to be able to do in my own way, is that how do you get 15 guys or 16 or whatever guys in the locker room to embody your mindset and your mentality? And that was something I was always fascinated about you. I'm not Pat Riley. I didn't come from where Pat came from. Dwayne didn't come. But you got all of us to embody the same mentality in that locker room. So that was Chris, not you.
No,
it was Chris. It was Chris, not you.
But believe me, she's a partner, and it's like Mr. and Mrs. Coach. I mean, she was a very successful marriage counselor, And by the time I got the job, she had 25 couples she was counseling, and a lot of people don't know that about her. But when I got the head coaching job, got the head coaching job, she can't do this alone. He said, we got to do it together. I got to take care of the wives and the families, and you take care of the players, and, winning and losing and traveling. And so she really, and she loved it. She got into it, from that standpoint. But, I mean, when you are a partnership in a marriage like that, and you care so much about an organization, and she can handle one side of it and you handle the other side of it. But to your point about how do I don't get anybody to do anything. One of the philosophies is, I can carry it on, is like, a house divided against itself, you're not going to stand. You're either with me or against me. You're either in or out, okay? You got to voluntarily, not by my coercion, but you got to voluntarily, get out of yourself and get with the program. And when you do that, then you got to get other people to get with the program. Yes. And then we create this environment, this this competitive basketball, 12 men, 3 coaches, 2 trainers, environment that we're going to kick ass. That's it. We're all going to be on the same page. And that it won't make any difference what happens to us along the way somewhere. There's going to be adversity. Adversity is a seed of equivalent benefit. You got to find it. You got to replant it. You got to reseed it. And then the last thing is that you don't merely, and you never merely, neither did Mike, you didn't merely want to be considered the best of the best at what you did, whatever role you had. You want to be the only ones who do what you do. And you do want to one day separate yourself from the pack. And you do. You've left footprints. Mike has left footprints. And so you don't really consciously think about leaving them, but when you retire and when you leave, they're there. And if others want to follow. So to really answer your point is to get back to why and how, is that all of you guys didn't mind what I was saying and how I was saying it, with tone of voice, message, and body language. Some days it could change.
Yeah.
It's called temporary insanity, as you know. Some days, a blackboard would have to be broken, you know?
Yeah.
And I was more happy when the players broke them, or threw something at a mirror.
I remember that. Remember I went in and he was like, good. I thought I was in trouble.
I don't have to do it.
Pat came in, I was like,
different
like,
times,
good.
though. It's a different time for us.
My people, this your OG here coming to you. For all my people that need a break from the crowded stores and endless gift lists, restore your zen and embrace the natural power of cannabis this holiday season with Vaya. Vaya is well-renowned for their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies and vapes, THCA flower, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part, my people, Vaya legally ships to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging directly to your door, no worries, no medical card. So if you're 21 and up, treat yourself to 15% off with our exclusive code OGs at viahemp.com. That's VIAHEMP.com. Their products range from 0 milligrams to 100 milligrams of THC. So these guys got you covered if you're looking to microdose or enjoy potent effects like myself. This holiday season, give yourself some peace of mind. If you're 21 and up, head to viahemp.com and use the code OGs to receive 15% off. That's VIAHemp.com and use codes OGs at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Vaya. Fellas, it's your OG coming to you with a roll call. You know who I'm talking to. We keeping it real up in here today. We got birthdays, holidays, Christmas. Some of us ain't been performing. Some of us can't perform. You trying to show up and show out? You trying to put that thing on her? Knock her socks off? Clap them cheeks? Rose Sparks can help you. Dissolvables? Y'all know they hit the bloodstream faster than them old school pills. Why does that matter? Because when the mood is right and you trying to get ready, no more waiting around for them pills to kick in. It's showtime, boy. Plus, Rose Sparks stay active in your system for 36 hours. No, you ain't gonna stay hard the whole time, but when you're ready to spin the block, you know what time it is. Ro connects guys with a medical provider 100% online, so you don't have to waste your time in waiting rooms. If approved, treatment shipped directly to your dough player. To get $15 off your first order and find out if prescription Rose Sparks is right for you, connect with a provider at ro.co/OGs. That's ro.co/OGs for $15 off your first order.
Back then, you're back in the 2000s. I remember when you walked in the gym for that tryout in that summer. You came back from Europe. I said, who's that? That's the guy who played at Florida. I said, oh, the guy in Florida that was 300 pounds, but he could rebound. He was smart. He could run, but he was a little big,
God damn, kid, it ain't that funny. Show ass up.
He was there. And then you had gone to Europe and you came into our summer league for a workout, rookie workout, tryout, and that was it. I saw you and I said, okay. I said, what are we going to do? I'll offer you a contract. And I would never forget you saying this to me. You said, Coach, I like it here. I was raised in Miami, but I got to go to San Antonio. I promised Pop I'd come down for a workout, and I'm going to. I said, Papa, get him. That'll be it. I'll be gone. He'll be out of here. And you went down, did your workout, and then you came back and signed with us, and here it is 20 years later. And but the best thing for me is when we were in Puerto Rico, and I saved it up for Puerto Rico. We went down there, Mike, and We're playing in a preseason game down there in Puerto Rico. And we had a good team because it's right after Zoe got sick, and I loved that first team that we had. But then we went down there, and it was Dwayne, it was Caron Butler,
Yes.
it was Eddie Jones, Brian Grant, and Lamar Odom. Okay, pretty good group of young guys to start with.
Really good team.
Yeah, and then so I'm announcing the starting lineup, and I named Dwayne, Eddie, Caron, Brian Grant, and everybody's. Lamar starts to take one step out there. I said, nope, UD. And not because Lamar wasn't a hell of a player.
Yes.
He's one of the all-time best players. But he would be great coming off the bench. And so the day that UD walked into that starting lineup, it's because he worked his ass off to get there. I loved that team. Of course, we made the trade that we had to make to get Shaq and won our championship. But you were a part of that. Yeah. So
I got to go back to the part about me not being able to shoot. I got to give you credit. Do you remember that day I was in the gym shooting and I was ball watching?
Oh, yeah.
And you said, why the fuck you said, why the fuck you keep looking at the ball?
Right.
And I said, because I'm shooting the ball. And he was like, no, keep your eye on the basket.
Right.
And I think that day, not saying I was ever the greatest shooter, but I think that day made me a capable shooter, a better shooter.
Yeah.
And shit, 15, 17 feet.
Yeah.
If the wind wasn't blowing, that's cash.
No, it was cash. Mike was he was a sniper.
Yes.
He was a sniper.
Yes.
But you, around that 15-foot area, you developed a shot.
You told me that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I was taught that when you shoot the ball, that you keep your eye right on the front of the rim or the back of the rim, and then you just, the follow through is to take your finger, your two index, and you drop them right over the front of the rim, and then you say to yourself, I like to get paid. I like to get paid. And every time you shoot it, I like to get paid. And, it gives you a positive energy about those shots going in and everything. But you made the biggest shots in the fourth quarter in 2006 when we needed them, man. You 2 jumpers, elbow jumper, corner jumper, and then that offensive rebound that you made that helped us stave off the Mavericks in the fourth quarter. Yeah.
And you told me that night. Do you remember what you told me before that game?
Yeah.
You told me I was going to have a big game.
Big game.
You told me don't think about it. You told me be ready to shoot. You're going to be open and that you're going to help win this
series. You're never afraid, UD. So, I know when there are players, a coach knows when there are players that might be fearful of that moment. When you're playing for the title, when you're playing for it and you got a chance to win the championship, man, that changes players' mentality. Sometimes it changes a coach's mentality too. And so you weren't afraid to win at the biggest moment. Dwayne wasn't afraid to win. All of those players that we had at that time, GP wasn't, Pose wasn't, Antoine wasn't, J. Will wasn't. J. Will was a little scattery, at times, but Shaq wasn't, you weren't, and we ended up winning that title. And that was the first. And it was a group of guys that weren't afraid to win, and that was what it's all about, man.
And did you remember telling us that we were going to be champs on June 20th?
Well, I had to think of something.
How the hell?
We just got our ass kicked.
Well, we had just lost, and you said that we're going to be champions on June. Now, we sit in the locker room like, what? Did he just see what we saw? We just got our asses handed to us. And you said that we're going to be champions on June 20th.
I don't know. I think coaches they have to find a way to plant a seed for something that's positive that's down the road. So we got beaten the first 2 games badly. And I think, well, what am I going to do? And I know GP at that time was a little bit cantankerous in the locker room after the game. And when I put that up on the board, 6/20/06, and I said, well, that's the first day that any team can win the championship, and we're going to win it that day. I said, we're going to win it on that date. So I just sort of put it out there to give you something to think about, that there's a goal that we can do this, and that's the day we're going to win it. And I remember, Gary was in the back of the locker room, and so he said, "Oh, that's great. So, but Pat, how are you going to help us get there?" And I said, "Gary," and I try to keep it simple. I said, "Gary," I said, "Look, if you believe in us and you believe in that date, just follow me. Now, I'm gonna lead you there. I'm gonna take you there, Gary." Gary's a little cynical,
Gary.
but I love him. I saw him at the Hall of Fame the other night. I don't have it with me right now, but he pulled out his 15 strong card and his warrior card. It's like a credit card that everybody carries.
One of the best guys I've ever played with.
Yeah, I'm about GP.
Never back down.
Nope.
What I love about him. Remember, you kicked us out that day we were fighting. So both of you get the fuck out of here. Both of you get the fuck out.
No, because you guys are real. You see, there's guys who fight and there's guys who swing. Swing and miss, and hopefully somebody can come get in between here somewhere or something like that, But anyhow, let me just, we can finish this part because I think you asked a very good question about, how do you get players, do certain things. And I made a point about, players having to get out of themselves and sacrifice and be part of the team and accept their roles. It's not easy. Everybody wants to climb that ladder, they do. And, but the most important thing is that you guys allowed me a certain, power, a certain part of me to be able to go hard at us. Be honest with us.
Yes.
You didn't mind as long as, you thought I was saying the truth. Now, my truth as a head coach and your truth as a starting power forward, Shaq's truth as the center, Dwayne, whoever's playing, we all have sort of a different truth about us. And that's born out of like where we come from. And we all get there in a different manner. But once we get there and you mix that salad up, it all has to come together. And that's the beauty of that team. That was the beauty of the big three and all of those guys coming together too. And it works. And even teams that may not be championship contenders, we all go in with a very positive training camp mentality. We're going to win, and a lot of players, we ain't going to win nothing. But you go in with that mentality, you're going to win, and somewhere during the course of the season, you can. You believe you can win.
Yes.
When you get to the playoffs, you can beat anybody.
Yes.
And we proved that, and so I've been in that situation a lot of times where, nobody thought we were going to win. I always thought we would win. I knew these guys would buy in, and once they bought into everything, then you got a chance to win. And it isn't just because you got a lot of talent. And as I said, we've always had a lot of talent on those championship teams, but we also have had times where we got to the Eastern Conference Finals where we didn't have that much talent, and it was teamwork. You can win it sometimes. You do,
Yes. I mean, when we talk about the championships that we won, we've all had big moments outside of the bigger guys.
Yeah.
I had my moment. Mike had his moment.
Right.
Shane Battier had his moment.
Absolutely.
Mario had his moment.
That's it.
Ray Allen had his moment, even though he's a Hall
You just
of
hit him.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has had their moment. And if you don't buy in, you're not ready for your moment.
Yeah.
If you're not 4 feet
You're
in,
right.
we can say 2 feet in.
You're right.
I like to say 4 feet in. If you're not 4 feet in, then you're not ready for your moment.
Yeah.
I remember me and Shane used to go back and forth in the playoffs, and one series would be a series for him, and one series might be a series for me.
That's right.
And I had his back every single time. All right, let's strength and honor, brother. Let's go. It's your time.
But you like each other. You see, we also had guys, who liked each other. There are some teams where, they can get it done on the court and then they get off the court and they never see each other. But you guys generally liked one another, and I think that's really important. And so having somebody always step up in their role, and their role might be a certain thing, and we leave everything to Dwayne, or we leave everything to Shaq, or you leave everything to somebody else at that particular time. You stepped out of your role, and all of a sudden you played bigger than what your role was. Just like you made the point about Shane making 6 threes in the 7th game, and Mike Miller, making that 3 right in front of me while he dropped his shoe.
Yes.
Yes. And I almost went down on the court and got the shoe myself and threw it back at him.
He couldn't bend over and get it himself with that badass back.
I know.
He was broken by then.
No, he's a courageous player. Mike was, I had a bad back, so I knew how hard it is when you have one that goes out. It just spasms up on you and gets so tight that, you're taking opioids left and right just to loosen it up. I hate to bring that subject up, but, we all have done it, to play.
You got to do what you got to do to get out there. I'm happy you were able to. I'm happy you touched on the big 3, because as we talk about sacrifice, I remember that specific summer, and so many teams were, and then me and Dwayne just talked about this the other day. So many teams were saving up and gearing up money to bring in 2 superstars.
Right.
2 superstars, and it was public.
Right.
Everybody's, New York has the opportunity to bring in 2 superstars. I think Atlanta had the opportunity to bring. It was so many teams that had the opportunity to bring in 2 superstars, and everybody was taking these trips around and visiting these organizations. And I didn't know this, but Dwayne told me this. It was never out in the public. It was never out in the open. But then it kind of got to Dwayne and that Miami has the opportunity to sign 3 stars. The great Andy Ellisberg. We have to give him his flowers.
Absolutely. Well, in 2006, the year that we won the title was the year that LeBron and Dwayne and Chris Bosh all signed their extensions. Mm-hmm. It's not a coincidence they were all represented by CAA.
Yes,
So they all signed.
True.
And then we took the contracts. We took a look at the contracts with options and all that stuff. And we saw that each one of them would be free agents in 2010. So I said, Andy, okay, we got this 3-4 years from now. I said, unless we trade for one of them, I think one day we might have an opportunity to sit at the table with LeBron, with Chris and Dwayne, or all 3 of them. And so from that day on, Andy went to work making sure that we would have the cap space in 2010 to sign all 3 of them. And a lot of people said, well, the Heat can't sign 3 of them. The people forgot that one of them was ours. That we had, they had bird rights on Dwayne, so we could sign him last. And so a lot of people didn't think that we were ever going to be able to get all 3 of them. But I was confident because, look at LeBron was banging his head against the wall for 7 years in Cleveland, getting to the finals, doing everything he could do.
Yes.
They just couldn't beat certain teams, at the time. Chris was doing the same thing for 7 years, beating his head against the wall, Toronto, and playing great and trying to win.
Great.
Dwayne had won one, and so this was an opportunity for these players in their prime, 25, 27, 27, to come together, and then to have you and get Mike, that first year. I still think we should have won the first year, but anyhow, you go back and you look at it, but Andy has been a person who not only knows talent, but he, basketball operations, the operations, manual and how you run your organization, cap, what's going on today. You need somebody, a scientific mathematician to understand the cap today. But Mandy is great. Andy's great, and he's really been so important to me. But that was just getting those 3 and to have that summer. I never forget. That's when the term came out. A guy by the name of Stephen Covey wrote a book called First Things First. And so, and out of that book, the very first line in that book was, the main thing is to make sure the main thing remains the main thing. And so when I pitched that to LeBron and Leon Rose and Maverick Carter and Randy Mims, we're all in a room together we're trying to recruit them. That was our pitch. And when I said that, Maverick looked at LeBron and whispered to him, like, I know that book. It's called First Things First. I think Maverick had already read the book himself, but it was a great day for us.
Man,
I mean, it's when we got Zoe, okay, and then we got PJ and Dan Marley and Tim Hardaway. We had that group with Keith Askins. That year. That's right. That was a hell of a team. And then when we got, we built that young team, and then we got Shaq and get the big 3. We had a really good run.
Man,
absolute run.
How was it kept so quiet though? Because everybody was all over ESPN, and nobody was speaking about Miami having an opportunity for 3. Yeah. How did you? How was
we
it?
knew it.
You guys knew.
We knew it. Everybody, and Dwayne knew it. I said, Dwayne, you're the linchpin here. I said, don't you think about going back to Chicago? He's like, I said, it's not about, we're going to give you, we had 48 million or whatever it was. Everybody was going to get 16.6. That's what the max was. Yes. Today they get 50.
Man, crazy.
But that was a lot back then, 16.6. Yeah. So we had enough room for 3 guys and Mike. And we had to trade Michael Beasley. I love Mike.
Yes.
I think Mike, with you group of guys, you say you would have brought him along in a great way. He might have led the team in scoring.
Ain't no
These
doubt.
are buckets, you know.
What the hell? I ain't never seen nothing like it.
But we had 5 guys that we could start that team with, and then we started adding a bunch of minimums and stuff like that. But it wasn't until we got Shane and then Ray and Chris Anderson and
Yes, Bird.
the Birdman. Yeah.
Can you talk about how good Chris Bosh was? Because we're huge on this podcast about just giving Chris his flowers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think people understand. And I think the generation behind Bam, they get on my damn nerves. I hate them. Because they made a comment the other day that Chris Bosh is closer to Knicks Claxton than he is to, what's the guy in L.A.? I'm having a brain freeze.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis.
Oh, Anthony Davis.
The generation said that Chris Bosh is closer to Nick Claxton. No disrespect, Nick Claxton. I love your work ethic. I love what you do for your team. But they said Chris Bosh is closer to Nick Claxton than he is to Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off.
Yeah.
I don't think this generation understands how really good of a basketball player Chris Bosh was.
Yeah. He's one of a kind. He's unique as a 7-footer. You know, yes. I remember scouting him at Georgia Tech and you know, knew the coach down there and everything. But you know, when he went to Toronto, if you think about him, was really one of the first prototype, you know, stretch bigs and could also score inside.
Yes.
Incredibly high IQ guy, and just a great player. So when you put a guy in that kind of category, and then he comes to Miami with LeBron and Dwayne, and he was the guy. The three of them really had some issues. Yeah. They had to deal with those issues, you know. And I talked to him, you know, after that first year, and I said, "You guys got to work this stuff out. You know, you can't just have a coach say, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and you're going to do it my way." I said, "You got to work this out, and there has to be some, as I said, voluntary cooperation on your part that you're all going to accept the role." So it was Bron, it was Dwayne, and it was Chris, you know. And so that's basically how the hierarchy of greatness was. And the players accepted that. And they were all great players.
Yes.
And that was the most important movement for that team, for those guys to, you know, I can remember, you know, that Boston game. Come on, that Boston game. When I think it was Paul Pierce drilled one in LeBron's face, took us back to the 7th game. Yeah. LeBron went for 40, 45 or 17 or something, you know. I mean, these guys had incredible games. And so Chris, you know, with the big rebound to Ray Allen and the big block for Danny Green, you know, and Mike going on a run of threes and Shane going on a run of threes and Dwayne being who Dwayne is. The most fun part of that team for me, I loved it because I wasn't coaching at the time, but the most fun part of it was when we got out on the break.
Ooh, yeah.
And Dwayne was on one wing, and and then Dwayne would be throwing these lobs, and then Dwayne would go out of bounds like this, and LeBron would be dunking it, you know. So it reminded me of Showtime in a lot of ways with those three players. But Chris was, without a doubt, if those two players were the real keys, Chris was the one that was the straw that stirred the drink because he sacrificed the most.
I agree.
Yeah, it really was.
Beautiful. Welcome back.
Hey,
you do?
I'm
you do 9 holes?
Coach, that's why I'm old school. We had technical difficulty. That's why I'm more of an old school guy.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm back. I have a question for you too, Coach. Because I think it's for us as players, but also for fans. You talked about that Dallas series, and I agree we should have won. I thought we were a better team. We should have won. What was your mindset going into that? And then again, the following year, we actually touched on this on the OGs a couple times. We had D Wade, and we talked about it as well. You know, we lose that, and you guys use this saying all the time, you know, there's winning and there's misery. That was the worst summer I've ever had in my life going into it personally. But you come back in there, and then you go to games. You're backs against the ropes. Chris Bosh is out. We go to Boston. Obviously, we end up winning. But what was your mindset and your patience level as an exec? Because you put so much into this and brought this team together, and the expectations were so great. What was your mindset that summer as far as like patience and understanding? Because we didn't know. We talked about it all the time. We didn't know if we were on the chopping block or not.
We knew for sure, Coach. If we didn't get there that second year, our asses was grass.
No way. No way. You know, no way. Because, you know, when you put together that kind of a team, and you're lucky enough that everybody said yes to come. And I saw that as a dynastic 10-year team. That's how I saw it, and that's what I was hoping for. And the talk about the contractual agreements, that we made, that back then you could sign players to 6 years, and they could opt out after the fourth, and so what we offered were 5-year contracts, which is what we could offer, and but everybody wanted the 6th year with the opt out after 4, and I knew everybody was going to opt out, so I got it, But I said we had 4 years that maybe could go into a 10-year run here, but after that first year, I let everybody just go down the rabbit hole because I know how you felt. I remember doing my exit meeting with Chris Bosh, and he was sitting there. Chris and I was just finishing up, and then LeBron was coming in at noon. And so right at noon, LeBron was out there. He had a T-shirt on. He had a do-rag on. He came in, and he just opened the door. I wasn't done with Chris. and LeBron walks in, and he walks over to where the window is, and he's looking at the bay. And Chris said, I think I better get out of here right now. And I sat down with LeBron, and I looked at him, and I saw that. I saw what Mike was just talking about, and I saw what you were talking about. I saw something in his eyes. I said, I don't think you and I really need to talk. You go home, get yourself right. Really get yourself right, get your head right. You get with, Chris, you get with Dwayne, you get with the guys, and let's come back next year. I said, we got a great team. And we dominated, those next 2 years from that standpoint. And it really it didn't upset me, but it hurt me that we couldn't keep that team together because I think it was a 5 or 6 championship team. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. If we could have kept them all together and stay healthy from that standpoint. But the nature of the game is what it is.
Coach, you talk about exit interviews, and I've never told anybody this before, and I've never told you this before, but I was thankful for one you gave me, the exit interview after OKC, where my back was completely gone, and I came in there and we had our exit interview, and I told you I was thinking about retiring and giving it up, and you said, don't do it. You gave us everything for the money I gave you. You gave us everything, and that kept me going and kept me motivated because I was so frustrated, even after winning a championship. So I just want to say thank you for that. That was unbelievable, especially where I was at mindset-wise with my health and stuff. So I appreciate that.
$7 million a year isn't bad, Mike. As I was saying, right?
Not at all. Hell no, not at all.
No, and you're worth every dime. He was worth every dime. Yeah. Mike was like, even though he didn't start all the day, he was like a glue guy.
Yes. We
had all those guys on the bench were like glue guys. They loved being there. That's what I said. I really felt that team liked each other. You had fun with each other. Yes. And as great as you were, you would kick each other's ass in practice. Yes. You'd practice hard. And when you get on the court against some other teams in this league, that one year we won 27 games in a row in 13. Won 67 games for the season. I mean, that doesn't happen, unless you got greatness there. And so, Mike, you're one of my all-time favorites. I wish I could have coached you. And, but I watched your career, and I just knew you were going to be perfect for this team. And, all the guys advocated for you. I said, okay, who are we going to get next? We made this deal out in L.A., finally came to an agreement with everybody. And then we had to wait for LeBron to do the decision. But, everybody was saying, we got to get Mike, and we got to get Mike. Mike was the first guy we had come to terms with, I think.
I remember that.
And so once I got Mike,
he took all my money.
He took your money.
He took all my money.
You got enough money.
Whoop his ass. He took all my money. No, so you said he might have leaked the location because D-Wade told us the other day that everybody met in a secret location. You just said L.A. Was that where they met at?
No, that was the first night.
Do you know where the big three met at for their secret location meeting?
Yes, I know where it was. Yeah, I know where it was. You guys went somewhere up to LeBron's place in Cleveland, I think, to meet, didn't you? Yeah. You had that meeting.
We did have a meeting in Cleveland.
That's okay. I couldn't, but it was okay for the players to meet. You can do whatever you want to do, but I couldn't be in that meeting. But I knew you were up there having a discussion about something. Look, it was a big deal for you guys. For Dwayne, for Chris, and for LeBron especially. Probably the top 5, 3 of the top 5 players in the league at the time.
Yes.
And, we're going to give up our own personal platform and sacrifice, for the sake of a championship, and it might blow up in our face. You never know if it's going to work. But, it was just so great, that night that, LeBron, went on with Jim Gray and for the decision. I remember being in South Beach, and I was at Red Steakhouse, and then I think Dwayne was down at Prime or somewhere else, and I'll never forget when he said, "I'm taking my talents to South Beach." You could hear the whole place. The city was like, all of a sudden, everybody's out in the streets yelling and screaming. I went out in the street, and then he yelled in the street and called Leon Rose on the phone. I never forget it.
So you didn't know until then?
Huh?
You didn't know until then?
I knew.
Oh, okay. You knew.
Man, there was no way. There's just no way that he could go up there. I didn't know, but there was no way that he could go up there and say, "I'm going to go to like New York or go to Chicago." He could have, but I had a good feeling that he was going to come to Miami. Yeah. We had a ball.
Speaking of that night, Coach.
Yeah.
Speaking of that night, Coach, we have a segment on here from Morgan and Morgan called the Too Easy segment.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious because we talked about this again on D Wade's thing as well. When LeBron got on stage and talked about not winning one, but not two, but 3, but 4.
It's okay.
All the way up to 7, all but 7. And I'm sitting there, and I know I'm about to sign with Miami the next couple of days. I'm like, what am I walking into? What was your mindset when he did that?
Well, I didn't mind it at all. I mean, we had a packed house.
I know you love that.
Mike McCullough, who's just a super marketing guy for us, put this whole thing together. You guys come up on stage, and there's smoke, and there's fans are going crazy. I mean those things don't happen that often in the NBA, and to be able to celebrate it before it even starts was great. But I don't mind, and I think he was kidding, but I don't mind people saying we're going to win. 1987, we beat the Celtics. It was the best team that we had. That team had matured in 1987 to be in the best they could be as a team. We won 67 games that year, and we won the title, and after 4 championships, I remember saying to the media at the parade, I guarantee that next year we're going to win it again. Right. And I meant it. And it's important because for 20 years, nobody's ever gone back-to-back. And for 20 years, nobody ever wanted to say anything about, okay, what's going to happen next year? And so the reason why I said it, and I thought a lot about it, is that I wanted to put more pressure on that team than they've ever had on them. If you guys think you're as great as you are, you can win back-to-back titles. You got to do it. And we're not going to write it down as a goal. Okay, we all guarantee we're going to win it, and then we're going to stick it in the drawer so nobody else can see it. You got to make it public, but not make it public with a hubris, or an arrogance. No, because we were good.
Yes.
And so I said, and I believed it. I wanted to put pressure on them. Now, they all got upset. The players got upset. They said, could we just enjoy the summer? Could we go play some golf? Can we go do scuba diving somewhere? And you got to put this kind of pressure on us already. And so I'll never forget, we came back to training camp, and it happened. They were ready, and we ended up going back-to-back titles. And so what LeBron was saying that day, we're not going to win 1, we're going to win 2, we're going to win 3, we're going to win 4. I think we could have.
And I'm happy you brought up that.
If he would have stayed, I think we could have.
You're absolutely right. Went to 4 straight finals, won 2.
Yeah.
I'm happy you brought up the Lakers, and I'm happy you brought up the Celtics, because that rivalry was one to be a part of. Yeah. And I think it kind of translated, and we kind of inherited it here somewhat.
You did. You did.
Okay, so we feel the same way.
That's right. I feel the same way.
You feel the same way.
And I was glad.
Okay, so just because that other night, I was sick watching Paul and KG walk out with that trophy to start the season. I didn't like it. Didn't feel good. My food didn't taste the same. just talk about that rivalry, and it's a respectful, hateful rivalry.
It is respectful.
It is very respectful. But it's they push us to the limit to find out how good we are, and we push them to find out how good that. But that's been going on for you for a long time.
But that's the best of sports, UD. That's when it's at its best, when 2 teams that are great, that have a tradition and a history and a rivalry where you can have that kind of competition. It's the kind of competition where that night, if you don't have butterflies or if you don't throw up for the game or something like that, you're not ready, because how important this is. And so, there's been 3 dynasties in my mind in this league. Boston in the 60s, okay, 11 and 13 years for Bill Russell. That's why his number's hanging in the rafters of every arena in this league, because he deserves to be there. And so 11 and 13. And then the Lakers, Showtime. Yeah. 7 trips to the finals, 5 championships in 9 years. And so that was a dynasty. Michael's 6 and 7 years was dynastic, without a doubt.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's one now. I think you had San Antonio, and you got Golden State winning 4. But when you get to a rivalry like that becomes so heated, you inherit it. And so what happened to us in the 80s? We inherited the 6 consecutive losses. That my great friend Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, and they lost to the Celtics. Can you even imagine your nature, and Mike, your nature, or LeBron or Dwayne or Chris losing 6 times in the finals? No. You would all go psycho somewhere, you'd probably spend the rest of your life in the Bahamas at a Tahiti bar or something like that. But it's hard, and so it's so hard to win. And so that rivalry was created, and it was left to us in the 80s to settle it. The albatross was shifted from the 60s to the 80s to beat the Celtics, and we beat them 2 out of 3 times. And then when I got here to Miami, and it was the same way, when they won in the late 2000s, and then we got the Big 3. That rivalry was incredible with the Big 3 and with KG and Paul. And Paul and KG, as much as they can bust us, they have that kind of respect for us. They won't say it, and I love that about them, and I love that about us, is we're not going to take it from you either. So it's a great rivalry. I mean, only to this day that Larry Bird and I can actually shake hands and hug one another.
Wow.
And it's great, because it's not personal, but he wanted to beat our ass and we wanted to beat their ass. But as you get older, it's such a wonderful feeling to see somebody who has aged that you knew was so great as a player, and you had to coach to try to beat him, and he is always trying to beat you. So, see, you're like that. Mike's like that. True winners, true champions are like that. They want that competitive, not hate, but that competitive desire to beat somebody else. Yeah. And that gives you that DNA.
So it's hope for me and KG and Paul one day?
Absolutely. I mean, you got if you stop yelling at each other all the time, then you'll be fine. But I'd love to have the 3 of you, KG and Paul, and you and Dwayne, maybe Mike or whatever, have a podcast where you can get after one another without throwing punches. That'd be great. or slinging insults. That would be an all-timer, man.
I tell you one thing: if some swinging get involved, Mike ain't gonna be there. That's what. If some swinging get involved, Mike ain't gonna be there. I'll tell you that.
Mike will be there.
That's what I got you for, UD. Damn.
But yeah, they're
hey, Coach.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, a couple fan questions that we wanted to make, and I think it makes up because we're talking about the Lakers, the Celtics, Miami Heat. So we like to do fan questions on here, and we monitor them pretty well on here. But there's one that I think is pretty good. It's almost an impossible answer, but to see where your head's at on it. The question was your Heat teams that you put together versus the Lakers teams that you coach. Who wins those games? Who wins that series?
Oh, listen, before you answer this, you still get together with your guys that you played with. I saw it on Instagram. You still hang out with those guys.
We're close.
Get your ass kicked when you go back next summer, Coach, because you know them guys take this personal.
I'll be very honest with you. I think the Laker team, the Showtime team of Scott, Cooper, Magic, Worthy, Kareem, okay, those 5 guys, it'd be hard for almost any other 5 to beat them. And I say this because of the greatness of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was the one guy that you could not guard. You could double him, but you could not guard him. And so when everything hit the fan, it was fist up, Cap. He had it in his mind. You kidding me? And so, but it'd be a great series. It'd be a great series.
Is it going 7?
I'd love that. Huh?
You going 7?
I'd go 7 with it, yeah. And then I'd throw it up. Whoever's got the home court, would probably win. But Mike, that's a good question. It's but I love that team. I love my teams here. I love the teams in New York too that I had. Those guys.
Listen. Now
that would have been a brutal.
We didn't get the chance to touch on that, but I will say this about those teams. When you talk about toughness, oh my gosh, Oakley, Mason, Pat Ewing, John Starks, Harper. I mean,
you forgot about X, Xavier McDaniel, Anthony Bonner.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, Derek Harper.
Is that the toughest group of you ever coached?
Yeah. I remember my first training camp in New York, and I did. I love Patrick. I love Oak. I love all those, Mace, John. And so we got our first practice in Charleston, and the day before, Dave Check gets traded for Xavier McDaniel. So we got another one, another real warrior coming in there. And so I got my practice plan up, and I spent a lot of time with the master plan for training camp, and then another, for that day. And the first drill, I was going to get it out of the way because I knew what was going to happen. I was going to get it out of the way, and we had a rebounding drill, blockout rebounding drill, okay? And so X and Mace lined up with each other, and that's it.
You already knew.
Ball went up on the board, and there it went. Boy, they went from bleacher to bleacher. We're all chasing them, trying to pull them apart and all that stuff, and they landed a few, and so it was over with, and I brought them all into the middle. I think Pat had Mace, and then Oak had X, and I said, "You guys finished?"
Man.
And they said, "Yeah, we're finished." I said, "Mace, you finished?" He said, "Yeah, I'm finished." I said, "X, you finished?" "Yeah." Wow. I said, "Your territories have been declared, right?" "Okay." "Yes, they have been." "Okay." The rest of the year, they were the best teammates, man. And when you put those two guys on the court, are you kidding me?
I'm happy you brought that up, the Knicks, because you've had the opportunity to coach some of the greatest centers.
Yes.
Now that I think back to ever play the game. With the greatest, starting with Kareem.
Right.
Then we can go to Shaq. Then we can go to Pat Ewing.
Right.
Then we can go to Alonzo.
Right.
And Shaq might say he the best on that list.
Yeah.
He probably going to say he the best on that list.
Yeah. Strongest.
He's damn sure the strongest. Yeah. But, damn. That's a Mount Rushmore of centers right there. That's a list.
My key to success, because the game was played differently from the inside out. You had to have a great big man. You just had to, unless you had great perimeter guys. Even Boston had Parrish and McHale. Yes. You got to have great big guys back then. And so to have Kareem, well, first of all, I played with Wilt. So Wilt was a dominant guy, and we won a championship as a team with him. But Kareem, and then Pat, and then Zoe. When I came to Miami and we were able to get Zoe that first month, I said, I knew we were going to win because he was the pivotal player. Then we got Tim, then we got PJ, then we got Dan, we had Keith on the team. We had a hell of a team. And but then you cannot win without a center. And so I was lucky to have him. And you're right. Those four guys could be on, Mount Rushmore.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, they're special.
That's beautiful.
Now you need 3-point shooters.
Yeah. You might not even need.
You got to get them 50 or 60.
You might not even need no center.
Mike can make a comeback right now. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah,
spot up shooter.
Yeah,
Andy White, he definitely get a job.
Coach, you talk about. Oh god.
Yeah.
See what I deal with, Coach? See what
I know.
I deal with?
I wouldn't deal with it, Mike.
Speaking of pivotal. I don't. Yeah. Speaking of pivotal pieces and additions, another fan question in 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
Another good fan question. I'm thinking, what was the feeling like when you required Ray and got Ray into from Boston in 2012?
Well,
that was such a big piece.
It was a big get for us. Yeah, it was a big get, Mike. And after getting Shane the year before, and even the thought that Ray with Boston would come, that was a hard sell. And so we didn't oversell Ray on it. We just sort of let Ray make his decision. And when he came, that obviously upset, Kevin and Paul, from that standpoint. But that was, I think, the significant last get for that team to win back-to-back titles. And to this day, as you know, Mike, you made the inbound pass. I don't know why the inbound pass came to LeBron for the three, but it did. He got one up, and then you got another rebound. You got it back to LeBron, and he took another three, and Chris got the rebound to Ray. And the beautiful thing about Ray Allen, and he used to do these drills.
Yes.
I remember he used to show us these drills, and I was amazed. He'd fall on the floor, get up, go backwards, and make threes. And that's the same thing he did that day. He backed up, and when the ball was in the air, I'll never forget this, from a fundamental standpoint. I'm watching. He's backing up. I saw he's going to step out of bounds. He's backing up, and he lands both of his toes right behind the three-point line. His heels were already off the floor, and when he caught it, he just rose, and it was nothing but net. And that gold rope, they took it right out of there, didn't they?
Yeah, he said it. Get
that rope out of there.
Yeah.
But Ray was a significant get, and you got to keep re-energizing the big three with other players that can help them win too.
That was a huge pickup. That was a huge pickup. But I will say this before we move on: we whipped their ass with Ray. We didn't.
I won't use that language.
Well, we didn't need Ray. We beat him the year before when they had Ray. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Let's just make that clear.
I'll let you players work it out, listen, okay?
Ray came to us, but we won the year before when they had Ray.
Yeah.
So we needed Ray to get over the championship hump. We need Ray to beat their ass.
Yeah. They won their title with Ray, and then we got him, and then we won our title with Ray down here. And Ray was, one of the great things about having Ray here, we had that gala down at Ray's house.
Yes.
Yes. And we had Boys the Men come.
Yes.
I love those galas and stuff.
Ray had a compound kind of like yours and Mike's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Compound?
Yeah, that's what we call it.
I don't know about that. Alligators in there.
Hey, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, I think the one thing that gets mislooked on that too is I think you talked about adding Shane and Birdman and then Ray even like on championship type teams that you touched on a little bit like making players uncomfortable and bringing those type because it keeps that locker room, it's a challenge because everybody still wants to play and want to do stuff. I think that's one of the things that championship teams really need to lock in on when they're trying to build longevity is keep adding these pieces, make people uncomfortable in there. I think every time you walk someone in there, it's like, yeah, welcome to the family, but we're still fighting for our jobs. We're still fighting.
Yes.
I thought that was something that was mislooked.
Well, I think players have to have that mentality themselves, with the exception of the very few who know they're locked in. Mm-hmm. A lot of the players are always sort of on the cusp of not knowing or knowing. I know that continuity and keeping the best players together for a long period of time and then adding something in to refreshen it or to make it even better is important. And so if it's something, I never intended to try to make people feel uncomfortable by doing that. I just tried to, along with Eric and along with Andy and everybody involved, is what piece can we add this year that can help them? What piece? You mentioned Rashard Lewis.
Yes.
And, and he's a hell of a player. And it was his prime year to be able to come in and help us. And so that's the only thing about, my dismay is that if we could have got by that fourth year and then got into 8 years, that this could have been, the kind of run that the Lakers had and the Celtics had and Michael had, from that standpoint. So no intention to try to make you guys feel uncomfortable, Mike, because that comes with the competition, and that's how you guys feel about it.
But the one thing you did do is
Coach, I loved it. I loved it.
I know.
Oh, yeah, because I would tell you this, and this is what I'm going to touch. We loved it because the guys like myself and Mike and Rashard Lewis and Shane and the guys that weren't necessarily going to play a majority of minutes, we would be upstairs playing 2-on-2, 3-on-3 full court, kicking each other's ass, just preparing to get our minutes.
Well,
and that was the environment.
Yeah, but so you guys are unique players. I'm not just saying that because you're here and Mike's there and you're a part of this team, but the winners and the competitors in this league, they want to be coached. And the one thing that I could do as a coach, and the one thing that Spo did as a coach is, even though guys are in great condition, and they always said, we got to go down to Miami and we have to be in great shape, there's a certain level that a player himself can get to condition-wise. But there's also another level that a coach can push him to a better level of conditioning, not just physically, but mentally. And then that's going to raise your efficiency as a player. You can't play in this league unless you're in great shape. You can't be efficient at your game unless you're in great shape. And the people who know that the most in the fourth quarter are who?
The people that's in great shape.
No, the people that you're playing against.
Yeah.
The team you're playing against is you mean to tell me they're still coming?
Yeah.
They're still coming?
Yeah.
And so that is sort of how I looked at it. So players got to want to be coached hard. They got to believe in the sincerity of the coach or the president, that I don't want you to win just because I want to get something out of it. Yeah, we want the franchise to win, but I want you to get out of the game what you desire. I really do. And you know it as well as I do, UD, that unless a coach is competent or a president's competent or a player is competent, you're not going to believe them. So if somebody's trying to teach you something that you know that this guy is not good enough, you're not going to play for him. You're not going to trust him. But if somebody who's competent that can teach you and you become better and you see yourself improve, then you play for that guy. And the last thing that I'll talk about when it comes to that is reliability. I couldn't guarantee you reliability because this is a business. You know what I'm saying? I mean, trading players is hard for me. It's part of the business. Free agents, they go to other places. And that's the world we live in today. But you got to have those first two. You got to be sincere, you got to be competent, and you got to be as reliable as you can. So, and one of the proudest things that I am, I feel about, and is that there's at least 8 or 9 or 10 players that are working for the Heat.
Yes.
That used to play for us, and they're working for the Heat, and I see them every day, and I love that part of it.
Family, brotherhood, all that stuff.
Right. Real family.
You got another fan question, Killer?
I got a question myself.
Yeah, I kind of got a question
not
too.
A question, more of a statement.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you guys talked about this while I was off, but we talked about it off camera. That first training camp, let's touch on that if you guys already haven't touched on it. That first training camp and how special that was when we went up to the base.
Well, when I thought about it, and had a long conversation with Eric about it, I have a tremendous respect and feeling for, the military. Mm-hmm. Okay, come on, man. The military, special ops. We have a program in Miami called 15 Strong.
Yes.
I have a special place in my heart for the real dedicated police officers. I'm a law and order guy. I mean, it's all there is to it. But I had so much respect for the military and had spent time with a lot of veterans. And in 2006, after we won the championship, that's where we developed the whole concept of Home Strong, which is to honor and to recognize every single night at a game, veterans, wounded veterans, Gold Star families, the guys who put it on the line. I mean, they go and for real, they're shooting bullets at people, and they are the best. So when we talked about training camp, I said, let's think about taking them to a nice military base, and Fort Eglin up there in the Panhandle. We made a great deal with them, and I really thought it was good. I thought it was good for us. Just the connotation that you're going to a military base is that it's work. These are committed people. Having breakfast with the soldiers and the special forces was great, and I thought it was a very productive training camp, Mike. But the spirit of it was that we were with the military. I remember one year when I was vying for the Olympic coaching job, and I was talking to Jerry Colangelo, and I loved Jerry to death. I played for him in Phoenix back in 1975. Now he was in charge of the Olympic team. It's myself, Mike Krzyzewski, and Pop. And, I had my interview with Jerry, and he had me pick out the top 25 players that he thought should be on the Olympic team. and he was going to pick out 25. And so we compared our list, and we're off one name. That's all. So we really had a meeting of the minds.
Wow.
And then he asked me, so where do you think we should practice? And I said, well, I think we should take him to Iraq and Afghanistan. We should go to every military base we can in this world and get ready for the Olympics, and get into the spirit of this country and all that stuff.
I think.
No, they wanted to go to Vegas.
They want to go to Vegas.
they wanted to go to Vegas.
They wanted to go to Vegas.
This is a marketing thing, but I kid them about that all the time. But that's where my head was. My head is in that kind of work ethic, that kind of commitment, that kind of man that would serve his country. You know it. You've had family members in the police department and how committed they are to doing the right thing. So we had a great time up there, Mike. I loved going up there.
I really think that training camp set the tone.
Yeah.
For just the guys.
Yeah.
And our mindset and how we were going to approach the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it really did, because at that time it was like, I know how good Chris Bosh is.
Yeah.
I've seen it, but let's see it.
No.
Let's see it. Let's see it every day. I'm going to push you, Chris.
Yeah.
You're going to push me.
Yeah.
LeBron, I know how good you are. Dwayne, I know how good you are. But let's see it.
Yeah.
And let's see it every day. And I think that just really set the tone for that group.
Yeah. And you have to do that. I think as a coach, you've got to, you can't be foolish with it. I didn't want to take you to Disneyland. I mean, I wasn't going to take you to the Bahamas and make this like a vacation. I said, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
First of all, you guys can make hard look easy. And so just that whole bonding thing, it's important to get a new team off to a good start. And I think the players appreciated it.
No, definitely did. Killer, you ready?
Well, Coach, you spent a lot of time with him. We appreciate you spending this time.
We got to ask one
I'm
more.
good.
Before we let you go.
I got to ask him one more. I got to ask him one more. Now,
right.
Coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of bullshit, and you might not agree with it. The Winning Time show. How you feel about that show?
Oh, the TV show?
Yeah, the TV show. Because it was something else on Hulu that was more accurate to the reality of the Lakers, and I think it really had you speaking and interviewed you and really took
it was
the
more
thing
of a
on
documentary.
Hulu. Yeah, the one on Hulu. I watched both. I watched the one on Hulu, which was more of a documentary. It was more, I think the team was involved, the guys were involved.
Yeah.
It was more narrated heavily and involved with you guys. And then you had the HBO part of things. Yeah. So how did you really feel about that? Because I know that wasn't as accurate as most guys would say or think.
No, the HBO program of Winning Time, I would say it was probably 50-50. 50 theatrical and 50 with some truth. The characters were over the top. If they got one character right, maybe mine was right. Adrian Brody he was a little off. He was a little unhinged, and so at times. But it really did a disservice to that team and especially to Jerry West. Jerry West was nothing like they portrayed, even though the actor is great. But every dynasty, if you go back to the Celtics in the 60s and you read, Bill Russell's book, The Second Win, and he talks about all the things in that decade, it was eye-opening. And you can talk about the Showtime Warriors, in the 80s and Michael's teams. You just have to listen to The Last Dance and see how much conflict there is. There's always conflict.
Yes, there was.
It's never a smooth ride. And so I would say in the 80s, we had a great ride because we had the same mentality of players that we had with the big three. And I think with the Heat in general, is those guys really liked each other.
Yes.
Shared the same kind of music. All the wives were part of it, significant others. And while there was some days where things were swept under the rug and some real arguments and some disagreements, and that happens in families. And so we kept it close to the vest, really kept it tight. But to answer your question, the show was entertaining for people to watch, but it was a lot of half truths in it, and I'm glad it's stopped.
Yeah, I wanted you to get a chance to speak your truth on that. Yeah. And the last thing, before I go, I can't get out of here without asking you the greatness of Spo.
Yeah,
considered even though he coached me, like a brother to me. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Did you see the greatness?
Well, look at it was a hard decision. When I left, because there were a couple of guys there that were with me since the beginning, and one of the things as a coach that I never liked to do is meet. I didn't like to meet as coaches. We would meet and plan training camp and all of that stuff. I would do all the practices, and so I didn't need to meet. I wanted all the coaches, after a game to watch the film, and then to write down their notes and slide them under my door. And then I would take their notes and I would compile their notes and I'd put them in my practice plan and everything. But I wasn't a big meeting guy, because when you get in coaches meetings, you start arguing with one another, and I appreciate people's opinions, so I want them written down. I don't want to get into an argument with them. And so I'm always trying to find my peace. 5 a.m. in the morning, I got 24 donut holes from Dunkin' Donuts and a big 18-ounce gulp coffee. And I got a little light shining on my desk, and I'm writing my practice plan over and over and over again. And Spo used to, I'd see the blue cards come under my door, and I'd read all of the coaches, and every year Spo's comments got better, deeper, more smarter, higher basketball IQ. I mean, the questions he was asking and the points he were bringing up, I said, this guy's got something going for him. When you're staring at a video of games, for 15 years, and you watch every aspect of what's going on the court, then you have a reservoir of knowledge. And so, when I decided that Spo would, and I said to Mickey, I said, I think Eric could be a good guy to do this, and let's go with it. It also was going to be 2 years where Dwayne was going to be MVP. We still had you. We had Bees. And so he had 2 playoff years. And he got us in the playoffs 2 years in a row, and he was growing. And you guys were pulling Spo along as players, just like, Kareem and Magic and Worthy pulled me along until I got my feet under myself in 1984-85. And then the Big Three came. Mm-hmm. Was he ready for the Big Three? That was what I said when we got the Big Three. And that first year, from that standpoint, he was ready for that. So those 2 years of apprenticeship, I think, got him ready for the Big Three. And he's just turned out to be a great coach, a great communicator. And he's of a generation now that he understands. And I think you have to today to understand the nature of the contemporary player. I hate to use that. It's almost insulting to players to say you're a contemporary player. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm soft because I wasn't a tough guy back in the 90s or the 80s? And no. You've just been educated differently. You've been taught differently. There's an internet. There's social media. There's TikTok, Why does Nick Saban and why does Dick Bennett, or why do all these great coaches now leave college football? Yeah. It's interesting what Saban said. He addressed Congress and about NIL and the portal and what's going on in college basketball, college football and everything. And he said, I came in as a coach, and I really believe this as a coach, is that when I got a player, I wanted him to leave the university finished, as a finished product. He's either going to go in the NFL, and most of the guys at Alabama went into the NFL, and if he didn't go in the NFL, he was ready to be a lawyer, or he was ready to be a doctor. He was ready to go into business, and he could. And he said, I can't do that anymore. He said, I've lost the ability because it's a one-and-done thing. They're in a portal. They want more money. They go somewhere else. And so the great coaches are leaving the game because of their coaching purity of wanting to develop young men into great men. And so, that's my answer to the whole thing. What was your question, by the way?
No, I was just talking about the greatness of Spo. And did you see?
And that's Spo,
yes,
okay, contemporary coach, and that's Spo, and so he has a great relationship with the guys. Today I was watching the film session after that night. The other night, it was not very pretty the other night, but he handled it perfectly, and guys are ready to go up to Charlotte and get our first win of the season.
Yes.
I hope.
Yes. Killer.
Well, Coach, here we always do a final segment with the OG's advice.
You got it.
I usually let the OG over there, UD, do it. But today, because you are the Godfather and the OGs, everyone hears about heat culture, and everyone understands it. Doesn't quite understand it, but I always tell them it's real. Heat culture is real. So your OG advice for any coach that's trying to create a championship culture, because I think it's important for these guys to understand that there's a lot of that goes into to winning championships.
Well, the culture, a culture is simply an environment. And so when you use the word culture, is you're trying to create the proper environment in which everybody can flourish, can work, can be part of something that's bigger than themselves. But I'll sort of leave it with this because it has to do with an individual. And I've stole this comment and this quote from an author unknown, but it should go this way: a player's, a coach's, a man's greatest fear should be their fear of extinction. But what they should fear one day is to become extinct with insignificance. And what that means to me is that what they want to do in that culture is they want to make sure that that culture can help them do something that matters and counts for themselves, for their family, for their legacy, for their city, for whatever. And you can make it bigger than just a culture of just winning. And so that's what I think, Mickey and myself, when we got together, he wanted a culture that had a great work ethic to it. He wanted the culture of competency. He wanted the culture of reliability, and I think that's what he got. But really, at the end of the day, when players leave this game, they got to feel like they did something that mattered and something that counted. You've done it. Udia's done it. And a lot of the guys that we've had here in Miami have done it. The ones who haven't done it here in Miami, they still feel it when they walk out the door. It's up to them to take it to another level then from there.
Toughest, nastiest, most disliked. Toughest, nastiest, most disliked, and most conditioned team in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's the culture. Coach, we're going to let you get out of here, but the young guys, Bam, Tyler, the young guys. Yeah. What's the next step?
Well, that's up to them. You see, they got 6-7 years of experience. They've learned from you. They've learned from the veterans. It's on them right now. I'm not trying to lay anything on them. Yeah. Because it's a team sport, but both of them have the ability, to do different things, to do bigger things. But it all is going to come down to winning. And so, right now they're the guys. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, all the other guys that sort of come up, sort of behind them. You got to put all this together and put it together and get out there and win. And I think they're more than capable of it. So he's got a great mentor in you.
Oh, that's my guy. I talk to him every day.
I appreciate what you do all the time. And every time I see UD, come in and talking to guys, or Zoe, talking to guys, and things of that nature. Mike, when you come down, other players come down. You don't realize how important it is for young players to have somebody come over and say something to them, whether it's good or bad, and they listen. I remember when Jerry West said to me, my third year in the league, I thought I was out of the league, and I went to the Lakers. I was at practice. I just got cut. They claimed me on waivers for $100, and I was in that gym an hour before they were going to have practice, getting up shots, and then Jerry West walks in, got a ball under his arm. He walks right up to me, and he says, "Pat, welcome to the LA Lakers. You're really going to help us." And he mentored me in a lot of ways, and that's what you're doing to our young guys. And I listened to him. Yeah. So anything he said to me, I listened to what he had to say, and he made me a better player, a better person.
But you don't just talk the talk, you always walk the walk. And I think that's one thing that we always appreciate about you. Yeah. You didn't just talk that shit, you walk that shit. Yeah. I seen it with my own eyes. You know what I'm saying? I seen you go toe-to-toe with big fella. I thought you were crazy.
Thanks for getting in there.
I thought you were crazy. I saw you go toe-to-toe with big fella, so you've always walked the walk, man. I appreciate everything you've done for my career. Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to learn and be around greatness and see what it looks like and try to put it into how it can work for me. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate being a part of this culture because what I've applied from in this culture outside has allowed me to be successful with other things, and it really works. So I just appreciate you for being all that. And after the 2 years that I wasted not speaking to you, the last 18, I learned a lot. So thank you.
Well, you give it all back. Mike, you have a good time up in Memphis up there, okay? Now, if there's a bar on Beale Street you're going to, what is it going to be?
Coach, he already got a beer right now. It's just not in the screen. I guarantee he got a beer somewhere over there. It just ain't in the screen. It's Miller Lite King.
Hey, Coach, don't listen to him. But I want to reiterate what UD said there too, and not only thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you don't do a whole lot of that.
My first,
but most importantly, for the impact you had, the most impact personally the impact you had in my career, not only in basketball but after basketball, because all the stuff that you talked about in culture, it leads in not just basketball but in business and in life. And so, I just want to say thank you for that, and thanks for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it. You are the OG, the Godfather, the best to do it.
Sir.
Well, you guys keep planting seeds, okay?
Oh, we will.
You keep planting those seeds, because they'll definitely germinate and things are going to come out of it. So you do it in the community, Mike. You're doing it in Memphis, and you just keep doing it, But I can't talk to Mike about his players right now. So anyhow,
you cannot. You cannot.
I want to. I know who they are. There
all right,
guys.
Get your ass out of here.
Coach, thank you so much, man.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.